You're listening to the home of cool, irreverent, and entertaining talk right here on LA Talk Radio. You're listening to The Art of Love with your host, Lucia, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to The Art of Love. My name is Lucia. I'm your host and a dating and relationship expert. And I'm here to entertain, educate, and enlighten you about love, dating, and relationships. Take your live calls, answer your emails, and speak to authors of books, which I find interesting. And this week, the book is very, very, very interesting. It's right up my alley. And I should have had this woman on years ago. I've already apologized to her off the air, and I apologize again on the air. I don't know what I was thinking. But luckily, I have her on now, and it is Valerie Gibson. And, of course, her book is Cougar, a guide for older women dating younger men. So she was the first person to be writing about this very popular trend, and so I have a ton of questions for her, and we're going to find out all about what is going on in the cougar world. Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lucia. Really pleased to be here.
Well, wonderful to have you. So a little bio. Valerie Gibson is an author, radio and television personality, and speaker across Canada and the U.S. She was the award-winning sex and relationships columnist for the Toronto Sun newspaper for 12 years and has appeared on Dr. Phil, Primetime Live, Montel Williams, Maury, Geraldo at Large, CNBC's The Big Idea, and The Today Show. So, do you happen to know what the origin of the word cougar is?
Yes, I started it. There was no word such word before I started it. And it started in Canada, in as much as how I got onto the whole idea was, a friend of mine said he was in a bar, and a couple of guys were there, saying derogatory remarks, of course, about an older woman who had some young guys hanging around her, and they said, she looks like a cougar on the prowl. Now, what they meant was the animal, Right. In Canada, we have the real thing, yes. The cougar animal. And when he mentioned that to me, he was saying about the younger men and so on. I said, my God, that's incredible. I'm going to grab that, and it absolutely means everything right, because it's a beautiful animal. It's powerful, it's sleek, it knows what it wants, it's in control of its environment, and I thought, wow, there's the image, to make women realize that they are in control and that they can decide what they want, just like the animal cougars. Well, the funny thing was, though, of course, when I took it to America, wrote the book, and no one in America knew what I was on about. Right. They all said, well, isn't that an animal? And I'd say, well, sort of. But I had to explain it. But I must say, what thrilled me was that the American world picked it up very, very fast and said, here's a female empowerment image for the 40-plus, which I'm afraid Canada took a rather long, slow time to be educated, but the American world picked it up beautifully and so fast. And I was so thrilled at that time that, yes, this is exactly what I meant. It's a positive image of empowerment, and that's the whole thing about being a cougar.
Absolutely. And so then what is your definition? Do you have like an official definition of a cougar?
Well, I always thought at the time, now we're going back a bit when this book came out, I thought at the time it was 40-plus women, but I have had a lot of much younger women since then say to me, oh, I'm a cougar.
Yeah, everybody wants to be a cougar.
10 years younger, and I say, look, if you would like to be a cougar and want to be a cougar, and you're dating younger, why not? So in a way, although I had said 40 plus, it can be more flexible. It can be, a 35-year-old dating a 25-year-old. So really, if that's what she is, if she's independent and powerful, but what a cougar is a woman who does not want to marry, does not want to cohabit, and does not want kids. She is extremely independent, very sophisticated, has her own money and her own world, her own business perhaps, whatever it is, she's in control. This is very, very different from all women who date younger. A lot of them want to get married, want a long-term relationship, want maybe have a kid at some time. No. Cougars do not. That was my definition right from the start. These are very, very independent women.
But don't you think the meaning has expanded now? Because, according to a survey from the site Cougar.com a few years ago, 2/3 of the women on that dating site said they did want a long-term relationship, possibly leading to marriage. Because if we narrow it down to just women that don't want to get married, won't that be a very narrow group?
Yes, it always was. It was a very elite club when I started the whole thing. It was an elite club of women who had probably been married already, maybe once or twice, in my case rather numerous times.
I heard.
So they weren't interested in that. And long-term relationships, well, that is a flexible situation, isn't it? How many people do we know manage to have long-term relationships? And so the odds when you're dating much younger is a little bit against you on that side of things. Because I did say in the book that really one should think, if you're going to be a cougar, think short-term. But if it turns out long-term, that's great. I married, my last husband was 15 years younger, and we were married for a long time. And I can't really even remember how long. And it was about 10 or 12 years, but it was a wonderful marriage. And it can happen, and I do know one or two people who have married. So yes, in a way, but if you want to be a cougar, I think you have to have that sense of control over not only your social life, but your sexual life and your whole life. And that is the difference between saying, oh, I got to have marriage, I've got to have relationships. Cougars are, they got their own mind about this, right, and very separate people. So yes, it is a small group. In effect, it was initially, but things have changed over the years.
Yes, as we know now, unfortunately, the media has turned it around, so now it's almost like you should be ashamed to be a cougar.
Oh, I think that's so awful.
Yes.
I really do. I think it's just another way of putting down older women.
Yes.
I think older women have enough already to cope with people putting them down, and having all these sayings about them. They don't do the same to men. Men have been dating and marrying younger forever, for the whole of history, and yet everybody applauds them. And I think it's absolutely disgusting because single older women have always been feared throughout history because they get stronger, they get smarter, they know what they want, they can't be controlled. No. And so this is the whole thing. It went against the patriarchal society, didn't it? So they had to be controlled somewhere. So it's always this put down. Oh, sorts of it. The English have loads of saying of making an older woman feel bad about herself. And I won't have it. I think it's absolutely wrong, and I think people should think twice before they start condemning single women who are dating single men. This is exactly what men have done, and you should treat them with the same respect that you do men.
Yeah, I think it is about control. My theory is that because, most people will agree, yes, if you're young and beautiful and a woman, of course you have a ton of power. And so they agree to that, but then they may resent that power, some men. So they go, okay, she's powerful now, but wait till she gets older, she's going to lose her looks, and then she won't be as powerful. Yay! So they were happy that women got older, but now it's like sorry, I'm a cougar and I'm so hot and I'm so powerful, and that's why they're pissed. It's like, damn, we thought we were going to kill them off at 40, but they're still rising up and coming back even stronger.
Yes, damn right. And I think the whole thing is that this is a completely new horizon. My next book is on that, actually. But the completely new horizon of the 40, 50, 60, and 70-year-old women being single and powerful, or in business, or heads of corporations. This is a whole new world. And you see, and in the past, if you go back to the 13th century or 14th century, we would have had a stake up the back of us. We'd be put on logs and set fire to. I mean, people hated the whole idea of a woman being strong and powerful and having her own way in things. It just was never done. We were supposed to, after a certain age, go away, or just hide somewhere, or just look after grandkids, or do something. But don't bother us. We're men. We're in charge. Don't bother us. Be invisible. And it's rubbish. You look at the lovely 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80-year-old women today. They're fabulous. They are absolutely fabulous. And they do not need to be dictated to anymore as to how they can live. And I think that the cougar thing I started was part of that, setting older women free from all these dreadful chains. I think it's about time.
Yeah, here. I agree. In fact, I was looking at this casting last week for this print ad for a sunglass company, which shall go unnamed, and they were looking for a cougar woman, but listen to this description that they had. You can only imagine. Okay. So,
gold.
It says, attractive but fake looking. They have blonde hair. They are desperately trying to stay young looking, but clearly they are aging. They are thin but not healthily, potentially with breast implants and collagen-filled lips.
Good grief, they should be sued. That is disgusting. I will never, I wish I knew the name of the company. I will never buy a pair of glasses from those people again, sunglasses. That is so out of date. That is so 1950s. What is the matter with a company like that? They haven't worked it out. Have they looked at the celebrities? Have they looked at the Hollywood stars? They are gorgeous. And they are in control. What are they trying to do, and what are they trying to say? And that is the kind of stuff that I'm so against, and I really resent, and I hope everybody who's listening will not buy sunglasses from that company, or write to them and say, hello, get with the program, get with the 2012-13. This is a new era, and you better smarten up or we're not going to buy your stuff.
Well,
I really, really resent it.
If the print ad does come out, then I'll let you know, and then we can start a campaign. How about that?
Absolutely. This is such regressive thinking. And I bet it was men put that together for sure. There's no question.
Yeah, because no woman would allow that in her
No
right
woman
mind.
would ever allow such a thing, yes. And the beautiful thing now is let's say going back to the 14th, 15th century, people died at 40 or 35. Now, the medicine and medical professions say we're going to be living to 90 and 95 and maybe 100 in a few years. So, when you get to 40 and 50, you're not even halfway. There's a lovely long way to go, and I think women are making the most of it, a lot of them. Some of them haven't learned that yet, but it isn't a question that you just give up at a certain point and say that, it's all downhill from now on. It isn't. It's all open to you now. All the options are there. Everything's there for you to jump into this adventure of aging. I think it's a wonderful thing, and women should wake up and smell the roses or coffee or whatever, the perfume.
Yeah, exactly. We're the pioneers because we're the first generation that's saying, hey, you don't have to, life does not end at 40, keep on going.
Absolutely, and 40 is a nothing age. If you're going to be living to 95 and 100, and it's not even there. And even when you're 60 and 70 and 80 now, I see some very fit women, very healthy, very together, still working, still out there living life to the full. This is ridiculous, this whole concept that women age badly. In fact, the ones I look at age far better than the men. They look much better than men. Men let themselves go, a lot of them, and they, get problems
Yes.
Well, we won't go into
No, we
what problems, but we're just saying that
No
they're
comment.
a problem for cougars if they want to date the same age or older, or not cougars, but women. And I think this is it. I think women today have it all if they only look at it positively.
Now, what do you think about the celebrities that are saying, don't call me a cougar, such as Demi Moore, Kim Cattrall, Katie Couric? They've all said that.
Yes, I know. Well, they're all afraid. What are they afraid of? Condemnation? Hey, come on. Mm-hmm. Demi Moore married a young man.
Right.
She may not consider herself a cougar, but the point is it doesn't matter, does it? You don't put down your fellow woman. If she wants to be a cougar, then she has every entitlement to do so. And I think that is unpleasant. I think as women we should support each other, not condemn each other and say, this is a bad thing. I think it really isn't. It's all depends how you live your life, how you live it to the full or not, and what your choices are. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
And I think a cougar making it negative is a real blow to women. I really think it should be just enjoyed if they want to. Not all women want to be a cougar, of course not. But all, women don't necessarily want to date younger. They want the same age or older. They want guys with prostate problems and erection problems.
Oh,
why not?
Hello.
It's their age group. I prefer someone healthy and hunky.
That's a good definition, healthy and hunky.
Yeah.
I think that the people that are, they put a bad influence on the word cougar, it's because they want to take the power away. So they're like, no,
yes,
don't be
absolutely. I agree, because I'll tell you, Lucia, exactly what's behind all this. We've just gone into about the patriarchal control. But you know what is really behind all this? It's for the first time in history, women have control of their sexuality and their sexual power. Older women.
Yes.
Not the younger women. Of course, they know what they've got. They know where they're going. But older women choosing to have control of their sexuality, that is a first. This means that the woman decides who she will date, who she will dump, who she will bed, or not at all.
Yes.
She has control of it. And I think this is what frightens women and men. Mm-hmm. This is something that women have never had, and they were never allowed it. Everything was,
up to the
decided
guy.
For them in relationships. And now the cougar mantra, after all, is don't call me, I'll call you. That is it. And that's the control, you see. And if she wants to end it, she will. If she doesn't want to see this person, she will. She wants to bed him, she will. This is the thing, and I think this is what bothers a lot of men and some women too.
Right. Do you think there's an age at which a woman, you would stop calling a woman a cougar?
Well, I think it's up to the woman, but I think really once you get to like 60, 65 maybe, and you're dating, 40-year-old, 45-year-olds, you're still a cougar. You can be, I've seen 75-year-olds could be dating much younger, I suppose. But it'll be a question of whether you want to at that age, because there's other things to do besides, have younger men bedding you all the time. It's a different era. I think the cougar thing was always the 40 plus to me to the 60 range, somewhere around there. Now I've seen some wonderful, as I say, 80-year-olds, but whether or not they want to date and be a cougar, I think personally it's up to them entirely, whether they choose to be or whether they just decide that's not what they want. I think it becomes more flexible once it gets to that age group. And in fact, my next book is about dating in the 50s, 60s, 70s and up, being single and dating and how to do it and how to get out there. So it's a sort of step up, if you like, from cougaring. Once you've had enough of cougaring or that doesn't appeal anymore, then you want to date just any age. So that's my next one. But yes, it is a personal decision, isn't it? And it all depends on how you feel. And I think that's the important part.
And do you think there's an age at which a man stops being a cub? Like, is a guy a cub if he's 50 and dating a 70-year-old?
Well, no, I think that I don't think I called that men that name at all in my book. I didn't see it because
I
really, yes, it does limit. It does limit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a man of 60 who's dating a 75-year-old would want to be known as a cub. I don't know. He may feel that that's very, youthful and makes him feel good. But generally speaking, I would say that, it's not suitable for any more than certain titles for young women are suitable for 60-year-olds. Right. It's certainly, again, a matter of, you could tease your younger partner and say, yes, you're my cub, or my boy toy. I find a lot of older men, funnily enough, who are dating older, like the idea of being a boy toy. It does make them feel young.
Right.
Just the label, if you like, the tease. So I think, no, I don't think cub is quite the word for any of them, actually.
Okay. That's what they're known as, or some people call it prey,
yes.
which is even worse.
Prey, no. You see, the thing, I let me explain this, Lucia. When I wrote the book, it was still a taboo subject. Would you believe, in 2000, 2001? Yeah. But at the time, the way you handle a taboo subject when you're writing about it or approaching people with it is to make them laugh.
Right.
Once they laugh, they relax and everything. So I had to make the book very cheeky, rather silly in parts, if you like, but kind of cheeky, sexy, and upbeat, and kind of different, so that people would smile. Women particularly would smile and say, hey, that's kind of funny. But I think at that time when I wrote it, it was very much run by the women. The women would decide to go out and find a cub, if you like to call it that. But what happened in those years, it's a 100% change. Now it is the younger men who drive the trend everywhere. It is the younger men who have the websites, as you mentioned earlier on, websites where to find cougars, the cougar of the month, that kind of thing. It's quite driven by them. And in fact, I used to do cougar cruises on Lake Ontario on a boat, just for the night. And when I first started them, we had a bit of a problem getting the guys to come along. What is this? What is this? Nobody knew what it was. By the time I'd finished number 4 or 5, we were swamped with younger men, just swamped. And for every older woman on that boat, there were 3 younger men.
At least.
And that's the change. That was the difference. All of a sudden, it had become cool to date an older woman. Right. It was all happening in Hollywood. It was happening with the celebrities. Suddenly, they could feel great about telling their friends, I'm dating this sexy older woman, and the guys would go, whoa, whereas years and years ago, there was all this, oh my God, what are you doing?
How dare you?
It's quite different. So that's it. And women say to me, well, how do I find these younger men? I said, really, you don't have to bother. They'll come to you. If you're an attractive, vital, alive, fun to be with, the men will come. The younger men particularly. So it's a question, it's changed. So no longer is it a predator-prey situation at all, if it ever really, really was.
Right.
But I think now it's very much driven by the young men.
It totally is. Now, something that young men often say to a woman, which I don't think is a compliment, and I want to get your opinion on this, is when they say, you look good for your age.
Well, I think they've been brought up, most people have been brought up, what do they say to a gorgeous woman, that's probably 50 or 60 or something and looks fantastic? I used to get asked, and I still do, well, how old are you? And I say, well, how old do you think I am? And they'd say, oh, such and such. And I say, close. Very close. It was never close. It was much lower. And he would be happy. I would be happy. Everybody was happy. Right. So the whole thing is, yes, here we are again, isn't it, Lucia? Here we are again. Women afraid of the age, and afraid of saying how old they are, and also having to put up with these, situations. Men don't say that. No. Men don't say, well, you look good for your age, old guy, They don't.
Right.
They either, they just are. And it's a different world. It's, in a way, yes, I agree with you. It's a put down, but it's often given the statement as a compliment. even though they don't understand
Right,
the connotation of it, that it is a put down, yes. But we've got to get over this whole thing that women age badly, and it's awful for women to age, whereas men can age and bet a 22-year-old at 80, Come on, everybody, get over it. Women are aging just the same, and they're aging better than the men.
Right. So, okay, so this leads me to my next question, which I actually posted on my Facebook page yesterday because my friend is in this situation, and I want to get your opinion on this. And basically, she started dating someone who's actually older than her, and she's over 40. And when they first met, she does not want to talk about her age, mainly because she's in show business, and she just does not want her age to get out there. So he asked her the age, and she lied. So, so just by a few years, So then, for some reason, he wasn't happy with what she told him. So he went snooping around the internet, and he found out something. But actually, the age he found out was actually younger than she told him, which, doesn't make sense. It's like, why would she lie and make herself older? But he was still upset, and he said, you need to come clean. Otherwise, he's basically hinting that the relationship is over. So she's not yet comfortable telling him her age, and I feel he's bullying her into telling him before she's ready. So what do you think she should do?
Dump him. Absolutely. This is a controller. Someone who's snooping around trying to find if she lied. Someone who actually cares that, she fudged her age a few years and is using it as a weapon over the relationship. This is a no-way guy as far as I'm concerned. She should find somebody more loving, less controlling, and somebody she can be happy with and not necessarily tell her age. What the heck? It's up to every woman to decide. But yeah, he's a controller, and if she gets into a long-term relationship with that guy, she'll regret it. Absolutely, no question, should dump him.
Yeah, I agree. But the comments on my Facebook page, half of them were, yes, get rid of him. Half of them are like, oh, just tell him, who cares?
Well, if she tells him, he's threatening to end the relationship. So it's both ways, isn't it? If she dumps him or tells him her age. So he's got it both ways. So, yeah, I would end the relationship myself, by saying, I'm 45 or whatever she is. And
goodbye.
Yeah, I just fudged it by a few years. So what? Get over it, and either you want this relationship or you don't. And if you don't, well, then get out. Be firm. Stand up for yourself, and don't allow these men to play games and control you just because of your age. Come on. That is ridiculous.
Well, see, he's older, I think if it was a young guy, he wouldn't be that concerned.
No. Generally, the younger men who date older women date them because that's what they want to do. They want to date older women. They do not, people say that to me, well, why isn't he dating his own age? And I say, because he doesn't want to. He wants to date older. He feels it's a much better situation for him. It suits him better. So the whole thing is because he wants to. It's too simplistic for people.
Right.
They don't see it. So, I mean, the fact that she's older, that's what's her problem. Her problem is she's worried that she's older than him and that he'll react. But in other words, she's being entangled in a controlling situation.
She's actually
and I think she should extract herself from that and by all means start again and just say, okay, this is my age. What are you going to do about it?
Actually,
and be, take control. Don't become a victim. This is all wrong. To me, it smacks of this controlling thing, and it's all wrong.
Yeah, I may have you may have misunderstood. He's actually older than her.
Oh, I see. I thought you meant she was older.
No.
Oh, he's older than her.
Yeah.
Well, then he shouldn't be bothering about
Exactly.
it. For God's sake.
What the hell?
If he's older than her, he's lucky to have her.
That's what I'm saying. If he was a young guy, he wouldn't be so caught up maybe in the age.
No, they do actually want to know at some point when the relationship goes along and gets a little bit serious there. They do sometimes say, as I say, that's what I do. They say, well, how old are you sometimes? Or sometimes they don't even ask. They're just happy to have such an exciting person who's very good in bed, and giving them showing them a kind of life they have never seen, and just think the older women are wonderful. In my experience, and it's vast of meeting people and in doing it myself with younger men and being with younger men, is that the young men get hooked on the older women. They simply don't want to go back to dating younger. They love that lifestyle. They love the women. They're so interesting. They've been places. They're wonderful to talk to take out. It's all these pluses. And the young men who get into a serious relationship with an older woman very rarely want to leave. It's up to the older woman to decide at some point whether she wants to end it or not, because often the younger men do not want to leave.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only difference I see between an older woman and a younger woman is the fact that sometimes the younger woman has softer skin.
Not necessarily.
That's why I said sometimes.
But no, the thing, I'll tell you the difference, Lucia. Younger women want marriage, kids, babies, picket fences, and mortgages, and picking out China. Right. Older women don't.
No.
Generally speaking, they've been there, done that. They don't want that. What they want is the same as older men. They want a good time with a lovely person on their arm, a young person who's exciting and makes them feel good, and they, just simply have more to offer. So it's a big, sort of vaster experience for a younger man to get involved with an older woman. It opens up his entire horizons. It's like, as I said in my book, it's like buying a ticket on a scenic train, but not paying for it. You sort of get traveling into a world that she inhabits, without having to grow old. The younger man sort of loves it. And he just loves the fact that she's experienced, sexually knowledgeable. It's all so many pluses. And people say to me about skin, do you know what? I'll tell you this, Lucia. When any age man, when he's had a fabulous time sexually in bed with a woman, he doesn't even notice whether the skin is soft or hard or the breasts or this or that. He doesn't. He just lays back with this big grin on his face. They don't notice the same way that people think they do.
Right.
They just say, wow, was that ever fabulous? And they don't say, well, what's that on your stomach? Or, they don't. And let me tell you, I've had plenty of relationships with younger men. They don't.
Right. They don't care.
They just know. They don't. This woman is fabulous and so exciting and turns him on. If that's what they're thinking.
I totally agree. So let's clear up some cougar myths, because there sure are a lot of them. Okay. So how about some people say, a cougar is a sugar mama?
Absolutely not. These are women who worked hard all their lives. They've got businesses. They're heads of corporations. They're not going to be throwing their money away. They're too smart. Men do that, older men on their young women. Yeah, they cover them with gifts and things. But the older woman is pretty savvy. By the time she's reached, 40, 50, she's savvy. She doesn't. She may buy him a gift or two, whatever she decides. But the whole thing about it is that she is not that stupid. Not like the old sugar daddies. No way.
That's right.
There's no old fool like an old fool. And he used to spend, or still does, I know, money on young things, and they're there for the money. But the younger man is not just there for her money. He's not, because I've met a ton of cougars who don't have any money, and yet they've got these gorgeous young men on their arms.
Right.
So it's not money. Yes, it may be exciting to have a woman with money. I've never had a lot of money, and I've never had any difficulties over that at all. So they buy me things.
Good.
So, I think, again, it's a put-down, isn't it? It's a myth.
Of course.
Another put-down.
How about this one? You'll love this one. The fact that cougars are sex-starved cradle robbers.
Oh, that was written by a man for sure. Yes, no, they're not. They're not. They're very much in control. Cradle robbing, what's that? Someone once said to me about, what is this? Young boys of 16, 17. I said, don't be ridiculous. A 40-year-old wants a smart 30-year-old, or a 35-year-old. These are not kids.
Right.
Cougars do not date kids.
Or if
you know, they date, you know, and I've dated 20 years younger, admittedly, but I mean, they're not kids.
No.
And this cradle robbing nonsense is yet another nasty little put down, isn't it? Men are cradle robbing all the time. I suppose one could come back and say, you know, what about that? But yes, no, they're not sex starved. They are sexy.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question they're sexy, and they may be very hot, you know, sexually. But that doesn't mean to say they're starved. In fact, in my experience, women who are sexy and sensual and very sexual are very in demand
Yes.
by all ages.
That's right.
That's the kind of women they're looking for, so they're not starved of sex, that's for sure.
Right, and plus it's better to rob a cradle than to rock a rocking chair.
There you are. Well, we mustn't put the older guys down too much, so must we?
Not too much. Just a bit.
Otherwise, you know, they can come back at us.
They'll rise up against us. How about the fact that he will eventually leave for a younger woman?
Well, funny enough, that is not necessarily a myth, but on the other hand, some may. But my experience, again, is that they don't. It is the older woman who ends the relationship, generally. And it may be, and I cover that in my book, too, it may be because he wants to start a family. Mm-hmm. And this is a bugaboo for cougars. Mm-hmm. And she does not want to start a family at 40 or 50 or whatever.
Right.
Some do. I have known some do that, but generally speaking, they don't. So usually the older woman, the cougar, will say, you know, sorry, guy, that's not happening. You must go. But he doesn't want to leave. You know, this is my experience. They don't want to leave their fabulous older women, and if he wanted, again, I'm going to go back to what I say, and people can't get it, can they? If he wanted to be with a younger woman, he would.
Right.
He wouldn't have been dating an older woman. He would have been dating younger women. There's plenty of them. They're gorgeous. They're lovely. There's loads of younger women around. So why is he dating an older woman? Because he loves it. He likes it. He's more mature, perhaps, than his peers. He needs more out of his relationships. He wants more out of his life. So he's dating somebody older who actually provides that emotionally and intellectually and physically. Mm-hmm. So that's it. So leaving for a younger woman is, I think, personally, and I don't mean to put my own sex down, but it's a female fear. You know,
yes,
oh, well, he will leave me one day, won't he? You know, no, he won't necessarily leave you at all. But you may have to decide at some point that this is not the path that you want. You know, you don't want to be a mom again. Right. You may have a couple of adult kids already.
What are your thoughts on a woman dating her children's school friends or classmates?
Well, I'm not keen on it, personally. Mm-hmm. I think there's enough problems with, and I got all the emails, you know, from the children, usually the girls, you know, anxious about their mother or angry about their mother dating somebody younger. It is not wise. No. If you really respect your children, you really respect their emotional health, it is not a good idea. There are plenty of younger men around. Plenty. You do not have to date your children's friends. No. Okay. And I would not agree with it. I think it's on the basis that I think your children's mental health and emotional health comes first. And children should always come first, no matter what in life. Yes. But the fact is that is too close and too much for them to handle. They've got their handling of the fact that probably you've been divorced from their father or whatever, and now you're dating younger. But the fact that, you know, dating one of their friends would really, really be difficult for them. And I just think, you know, look elsewhere. That's all you got to do. Just look elsewhere.
Okay, well, I bring it up because there's this show that's going to be on in a few days called Extreme Cougar Wives on the Learning Channel. And so here's the three women they picked. They picked a 76-year-old who dates men in their 20s. They picked a woman who's 53, and she's dating a guy that her daughter used to date, and he's 32 years younger. And then there's a woman, 65, dating a 28-year-old.
Yes, I've heard about it, and I've read about it. And, yes, here we go again in the media extremes. Obviously, that's what it's called. Mm-hmm. There is no question, if you go through history, that happens. And, you know, artists, writers, famous royalty have done the same thing, no matter what age they got to. But the trouble with it is, though, unless you're going to be sure you're going to live to be 100 and be sexy and hot at 100, I think you've got a short span. And I think the whole thing is to be reasonable about it. I think be reasonable about aging. I mean, it isn't an eternal thing. You're not going to be 65 forever or 75 forever, any more than anyone's going to be anything forever.
Right.
Life has a span. So I think the whole thing with it is, if the young man is really keen and you're happy, absolutely enjoy it for as long as it lasts. And that's the whole business of the short term. Think short term. Why do we always have to think long term?
Mm-hmm.
If it's working for two people, the whole business of older women and younger men is simple. It's the fact that as long as these two people care for each other, have great pleasure together, want to be together, maybe love each other, that's the key. It's not a question of their ages, is it? No. It's a question like any other relationship. As long as you get along and have a great time and really enjoy each other's company, then you're fine. Who, as I said earlier in the program, who knows what relationships are going to last long term? Mm-hmm. And certainly the odds are shortened. Whether you like it or not, at that age, the odds are a little bit shortened, but enjoy it for what it is, and then just see how it goes.
Yeah. Now, in the trailer that I saw,
all right, I haven't seen it yet. I don't think it's up here in Canada yet.
It's juicy. There's a scene where the woman meets the guy's mother, and of course she freaks out. She's like, "What? She's older than me?" So. So what advice?
Absolutely, yes. It's the big bugaboo for all of them. I've been through it myself, and I always say meeting the mother, is one of the toughest parts of dating younger. There's no question. Especially when she's the same age or younger, similar age. And of course, it's not what they want their son, their child to do, because they're probably thinking grandchildren, a dynasty, whatever it is. And you don't fit the bill. So I always advise cougars or anyone, older women dating younger men, to put off meeting the parents for as long as possible.
If ever.
And I had my ex-husband, his parents were lovely. They were just the sweetest thing. I think they were just so glad he found somebody to fall in love with. But however, they were just lovely, no problems whatsoever. But I've always looked a lot younger, and I never told them my age. But yes, it doesn't fall into the pattern of what parents expect their children to be doing. And they expect them to marry, have children, and do all the things that they did in their generation. But of course, we live in a different generation, and a different time, and young men and older women are choosing different things. And I think the whole business of meeting his mom is a very, very delicate thing, and has to be handled with treated with respect. Doesn't matter what they say,
Mm-hmm.
Just always treat them with respect. Never run them down to your boyfriend or anything like that. Just as any young woman meeting the parents of her boyfriend for the first time would do.
Right.
And I think that's it. Always try to be respectful. I think that's all you can do, because they may turn around and say, "Oh my gosh, how old is she?" I've had that said to me. How old is she? I say, "What are you doing?" And luckily, the young man at that point said, "She's wonderful. I just adore her." So I was kind of eased, but for them, it doesn't fit into their rules. So that is the problem. So you're not going to be up against people who will welcome you with open arms. So be prepared. Be prepared. Like the Scouts.
Now, if I understand correctly, you've been married 5 times?
Yes, I have. I started early.
Okay, sure. So let's get some wisdom from you. So I'm sure you have a lot of wisdom after 5 marriages. So what do you absolutely know that is true about marriage?
Now what a good question. If I understood marriage, I wouldn't have kept doing it. But But I think what I have understood is I'm not a good wife. I may make a better mistress than I do a wife. Mm-hmm. But the thing about marriage is that it's hard work. Maybe that when I was younger, I was not willing to do the hard work and keep it going. I found, in my experience, it may not happen to everybody, that men tend to get married and then settle down. They want you to settle down. They settle into a pattern. I was never that type. I was always wild. I was always, treading new paths, trying out trends, pioneering trends, doing all sorts of things. I grew and grew and grew. They didn't. And I found that was difficult. So that's something that I didn't realize when I was getting married. I love these guys, by the way. They were lovely, lovely men. Mm-hmm. I think I was just too much for them. Wow. Because they used to think you're married, you'll settle down, won't you? And I thought, hello? No. So it was not a good situation from the start. But they're lovely men. They've remarried and had their children and all sorts of things. And I think for women nowadays, so you've got to remember years and years and years ago, women couldn't cohabit. Mm-hmm. So we had to marry. We were under enormous pressure from society, from everybody. Right. Marry this person that you're living with, And so now I think I would have cohabited with 4 of them. Probably be married once. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so it's a question, though, that marriage, I think, is still a very important thing. And then people say, is marriage dead? And I don't think so. I live opposite a church, and I watch people getting married all the time. Wow. People, I think to people today, it's stating to the public, to the world, I really, really love this person. I really want to be with this person. I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. That's the idea, anyway. And marriage, therefore, will always be part of the family unit, I think. Cohabiting is risky. It is very risky, and I don't care what statistics are said. Mm-hmm. There's not that bond. That bond is not there. So that's it. So obviously I do love marriage, don't I? By the sound of it. But I'm not doing it again.
Oh, okay, right. Well, see, I've never been married. I just figured I'd skip all the divorces and stay single.
Very good idea, because it cost me a fortune, because I just signed everything away to all of them.
Wow.
I didn't take a cent from any of them. I just didn't. And that is the way, I tell you, freedom costs. So that is the way it is. I signed everything back to them. They could have everything and just let me go and find my path. And that's the way I've lived life. Now I'm getting older. I like a little bit more stability in my life as regards I make sure I make my own. So no more marriages, giving away my money.
Right. Or just get a prenup. Just get a prenup.
No.
No?
No, I don't like them. I know. I'm old-fashioned. I think if you're going to bond with someone, you're going to bond with them, unless they're multimillionaires, I suppose. It makes sense, doesn't it, or something like that. But I've never met one that wanted to marry me yet. So no, prenups. Didn't work for me, or wouldn't have worked for me in the past. But maybe that's the route now for women to be assured of their money. Absolutely. It seems to me so sort of base. I don't know. Money was never that important to me, maybe. Maybe it should be.
Right. Only time
but prenups just smack a little bit of too much business about it.
Well, but marriage is a business. Would you agree?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Lucia. That's a very good way of putting it, because it's like working at a business. You don't make your money in the first year or two. You have to work hard at it. Right. You have to look after your customers. Yes, you're right. And that is probably the best route to go nowadays because of the ease of divorce. For me, it just wasn't the route. I don't think they existed anyway many, many moons ago.
Well, we didn't know they existed, but they probably existed.
Well, if they did, yes, I didn't know about it. I just felt so damn guilty. That even though that was just my way, I felt guilt, so I let them have everything. Wow. Poor dears. And it's nice. Fine.
You're too nice.
Well, that made me a lot poorer than I should
be. Well, Valerie, it's been wonderful having you on. Like I said, I should have done this years ago. Very, very informative, and So do you want to talk a bit about your website, which is valeriegibson.com?
Yes, if anybody wants a book, that's the place to go because it's now out of print. But my new book coming up is all on dating for the single woman, 50, 60, and 70, the later data sort of thing.
Oh.
And it'll be good advice in the same sort of way, but not so cheeky and silly. But it'll be good advice on how to get out there, get online, do this, do that, how to meet people, what to expect sexually, you know, when you're in your 50s, 60s, and 70s and single for the first time maybe. So it's a good, helpful thing. And I hope will make women, again, feel good about aging and good about getting out there and living life to the fullest.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being on. It's been a pleasure and an honor.
My pleasure too, Lucia. Thank you very much for having me.
Take care. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. See how much energy she had? See, that's what I mean by cougars. They have a lot of energy. They have a lot of vitality. You know, they're not just... So, yeah, I'm really glad I had her on finally. Well, it's time to say goodbye. And before I go, I just want to let you know about my website, which is theartoflove.net. And you can sign up for my free weekly newsletter there. My book, Lucia's Lessons of Love, is available at lessonsoflove.net, and you can get a free excerpt there. And finally, for the guys, my recording on how to catch a cougar with a free preview is at howtocatchacougar.net. So until next time, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.
You're listening to The Art of Love with your host, Lucia, right here on LA Talk Radio.